And guys, in Matthew 5, verses 27 to 30, looking at some aspects of the law. As we read earlier, that Jesus came to fulfill the law, but the law hasn't been abolished. Not one dot or tittle of the law will pass away until it's all been accomplished. And one of the things of the law is it points us to Christ. It shows that we are a sinner. It shows us how serious sin is. And so when Jesus expands on the law, they've made sin less serious. We tend to undermine sin and make it less serious than it is, and we tend to always walk as close to the line as possible and compromise. But sin is very, very serious. And it says, you've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. And that's part of the 10 Commandments from Exodus 5. Exodus 20, verse 14, Deuteronomy 5 repeats it, you shall not commit adultery. What is adultery? Well, in the basic sense, it's having sex outside of marriage, taking another person's wife. But Jesus looks at it, and the whole thing with the Beatitudes here is always going back to the heart. So what is the condition of your heart? Because sin actually starts. Our hearts are deceptively wicked. We allow things to entertain our thoughts, and then that becomes a lustful thought, which lands up at sin. And so he says, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman, not just looks at a woman, but looks at a woman with lust. So that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with looking at a woman, but then when that turns into lust, and that's conceived in the heart, it becomes sin. So it's not just about the sexual act, it's actually about entertaining that lust in one's heart. But the same word for lust is in Greek word is in Romans 13 verse 9, for this you shall not commit adultery. It goes on to say you shall not murder, and steal quotes the 10 Commandments. And it says you shall not covet, and that same word for lust is covet here. And you start to desire that intimacy in your mind. And that's why pornography is so bad, because you're committing adultery in your heart. So he says, you must not have lust for whoever has lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That's Matthew 5:28. If your right eye makes you stumble, tear it out and throw it from you. Here's the seriousness of sin. So if that eye has caused you to sin, you got to deal with it. You got to cut off that thing. So if it's your cell phone that's causing you to look at pornography, you've got to get rid of that thing. There's got to be a serious action. You can't keep falling into the same sin. And so we know that the eye is the window of the soul. Whatever you allow in, whatever you look at and you allow those things, they corrupt the inner man. And so we need to guard our eyes. In fact, Job 31 says, I have made a covenant with my eyes. And there's actually a program called Covenant Eyes that helps you guard what you look at on your phone. I've made a covenant with my eyes. How then can I gaze at a virgin? So that, remember that it's not just the looking, it's the gazing, it's the entertaining that thought that turns into that lust, and then eventually that sin. Verse 29 of Matthew 5. If your right arm makes you stumble, tear it out, for it is better for you to lose one of your parts of your body than for your whole body to burn into hell. Sin leads to death. Sexual immorality is one of those sex sins that any sex sin, you sin against your body and that results in death. But actually any sin will send you to hell. So we've got to take sin seriously. That's the result of it. You get thrown into hell. And so in one sense he's trying to say to the Pharisees, either obey all the law, make it to heaven, which we can't do, or you accept Christ who washes away our sin. In Matthew 6, the next chapter, it talks about the eye as well. It says the eye is the lamp of the body, so that if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? And just another reminder of how important it is to guard our eyes. Don't watch rubbish. The more you watch the rubbish on TV, the violence, the sexual morality, all that, it will pervert you. It makes you dark. It's a lamp of your body, and it can corrupt your body. So the more you expose yourself to that junk, the more that corruption will start making an effect in your heart. Back to Matthew 5, verse 30. If your right hand makes you stumble, cut it off and throw it into your fire. For it is better for you to lose one of your parts of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. In other words, again, if something is causing you to sin, cut it off. That's the principle here. Take it seriously. Don't just carry on. And for some people, it may be food, and they keep on having something in the pantry. Other people, it may be alcohol, and they keep thinking, oh no, I'll overcome, but they have a bottle of wine in the cupboard. Rather cut that thing off than continue to fall into the same sin. Proverbs 4:23 says, watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth and a devious speech far from you. Remember, we did yesterday or last week that how your heart, or what flows on your heart is your mouth. What you say of people, that hatred comes out as the same as murder. And now what you look at lustfully is the same as adultery. And he goes on, Proverbs 4:25, let your eyes look directly ahead and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Keep your eyes on Jesus, keep your eyes on good things. Make sure you're guarding those eyes. Colossians 3:5, therefore consider the members of your earthly body as dead to immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which amounts to idolatry. Amen.